How's it going, everyone? It is Panjano here, and this is the ultimate FPS increase guide for the FIRST Descendant. In this video, we'll be covering all settings, optimizations, and tricks you can apply to your game to ensure that you get the absolute best FPS possible, help reduce any frame stutter you might be experiencing, alongside providing you with the best balance of in-game settings to keep the game looking great, whilst giving a massive boost to performance across all PCs. Whether you've got a high-end, low-end, old, new, desktop, laptop, Intel, AMD, Nvidia, it does not matter. By the end of this video, you'll have the best gameplay experience possible for your system. But leveling up your gaming doesn't end there. You can take control and enhance your entire system's audio using SteelSeries Sonar. This works on nearly all headsets and mics and lets you dial in your gear for the best experience. From a fully customizable EQ with presets for your favorite games to ensure that you get the best footstep, utility, or feedback in those crucial moments, a full audio mix to easily route or adjust the volume of Discord, teammates, in-game audio or music, and a super simple, fully customizable microphone EQ to make the best or worst microphones sound their best and fit your voice with easy to choose presets. And it's free. Head over to SteelSeries Sonar using the link in the description down below, select download. Inside of SteelSeries GG, head over to Sonar. Throughout the setup, select the audio device you want to route all aspects of your system's audio to, and finally select your microphone. Inside of the mixer, you can adjust the levels for all different aspects of your system's audio. Head up to mic, go to the preset EQ options at the top for easy to use options, or again, take full control of the EQ yourself, where you can perform a quick microphone record test for bass audio, where you can play this back, make any adjustments, and see how you'll sound once your preset is dialed in. To hear more game audio or more chat, find the chat mix at the bottom, adjust the dial to match your preference. So level up your gaming today and support the channel by downloading SteelSeries Sonar utilizing the link in the description down below. Navigate down to the Windows button and search for GPU space settings, then select graphics settings. Start off with hardware accelerated GPU scheduling. If you do see this option and are planning on utilizing or at least trying out frame generation inside of the game, you'll need to have this enabled for it to work properly. As the FIRST Descendant utilizes DirectX 12, it's also highly recommended to check the box for optimizations for windowed games, because DirectX 12 technically runs in a windowed mode even when full screen, so you'll get the benefits of selecting this option. Last but not least, for the Windows settings, navigate down once again to the Windows button and search for Game Space Mode. Ensure that Windows Game Mode is switched on. Regardless of the GPU in which you are utilizing, it is highly recommended to make sure that you are updated to the latest GPU drivers available. This is essential to ensure that you have not only the latest performance fixes, but also the game ready driver specifically for this game to fix any potential issues. But that's out of the way, jump straight into Steam and boot the game. I would highly recommend that you jump into a live instance of the game so you can not only see the performance differences before and after, but also the visual changes. If you're interested in getting this FPS counter, you can check out the video linked in the description down below. Otherwise, you can often utilize the AMD or Nvidia overlays to also display a live FPS counter so you can see your FPS now and after any changes have been made. Head over to options on the left hand side. Start off with the display tab. If you are experiencing stuttering issues or odd resolution scaling inside of the game, you could change the display mode from borderless windowed over to full screen and see how you get on. One important option that I like to adjust with inside of it is the field of view. This won't do much for performance, but it's very nice for customization. At the end of this video, when all of your settings are adjusted and dialed in, or at any time you can come back to the display settings and add in some additional sharpness using this slider here, but I would only do this at the end if you wish to add more sharpness. Head over to the graphics tab in the top left hand side. We'll first of all be starting off with the graphics presets for those of you that don't wish to utilize ray tracing, because in this game I really don't feel like it's worth it across any systems, whether they're low end or ultra high end, especially when compared to the standard lighting model, thanks to this game being built on Unreal Engine 5. To start off, we're going to be setting ray tracing to off. If you are interested in ray tracing and you really want to utilize it, there will be ray tracing specific settings later on in this video. Just look for the chapter or timestamp below. We're going to leave additional options turned off for now, as we'll be coming back to this when our in-game settings are dialed in. VSync should be switched off inside of the game. If you do have an Nvidia GPU, it is highly recommended to enable Nvidia Reflex Low Latency. We're going to be leaving maximum frame rate set to unlimited for testing purposes whilst we dial in your in-game settings, and later on we may implement an FPS cap at the end. All you need to do now is scroll all the way towards the bottom to the advanced settings. On screen now you'll be able to see a low preset and a recommended preset that you can simply pause the video and copy these settings into your game. It's super quick and easy, and both presets have been fully optimized to ensure that you have the absolute best balance of visual fidelity and performance to ensure that your game still looks fantastic for a significant performance increase. Is at 30 frames per second. And just switching over to the recommended preset with no upscaling, we've gone up from 30 FPS to 46 on this PC. Once you've dialed in that preset, we can now jump into the in-game settings and dial in our additional options, where you'll then have options for Nvidia, AMD, Intel, and Epic games. These are the upscaling options which are available to your game. In my recommendation, if you do have an Nvidia GPU, go with the Nvidia options here. If you you do not have an NVIDIA GPU, then I'd recommend utilizing AMD options or Epic Games, but I would preference AMD's. Once you've selected this, we'll then have the option for DLSS, FSR, or TSR if you went with Epic Games. The options with inside of it are typically the same. The main preset we're interested in trying out first is balanced. So whether you're utilizing FSR or DLSS, set this to balanced. With that selected, going back into my game on this system, getting 60 to 63 FPS, which is a fantastic improvement. At this point, if you're looking to get even more FPS, we can then adjust the preset that we're using for FSR, TSR, or DLSS. If you want more performance and you're happy with how your game currently looks, then go to a lower preset such as performance. Just like that, you're able to see a massive FPS increase just going from balance to performance. And if you're still happy with how it looks, you could go down to the ultra performance modes. It's all about finding what you're happy with visually and how it performs on your system. Now that you've got your optimized preset set alongside your upscaling method, we can now experiment around with frame generation if you want to. Frame generation is fantastic, but it does come with a small drawback, which is increased input latency and potential visual artifacts. So if you're happy with how the base FPS is now inside of your game, I would not recommend utilizing frame generation, and I would just stick with normal native frames. But if you do wish to experiment around with it, for frame generation you will need to be making use of at least NVIDIA or AMD's options. Head over to frame generation and switch this to on. Depending on the settings you're using, the system you're on, you may see a decent FPS uplift or not much of an uplift at all. Make sure that you do utilize the mouse and play for a little while, because you will more than likely notice a small change to the input latency of the game, which you may not like, so do experiment around with that setting for yourself. But what about those of you that seriously want to make use of ray tracing? We need to set up ray tracing properly to ensure that we don't get a huge performance decrease and it looks the best it can. For ray tracing, I would highly recommend that you go with high instead of ultra. You then want to navigate down to additional options and select either NVIDIA or AMD. At a bare minimum, I would be making use of the DLSS balanced preset regardless of the resolution you're playing at. You then want to navigate down to DLSS ray reconstruction, which will take away a tiny bit of performance, but in exchange for a better looking ray tracing experience. See how it looks and see how it performs. If performance isn't on par with what you're expecting still, go back to the settings and lower that DLSS preset. Find a preset that works best for you. If you're still struggling with performance at this point, if you are utilizing ray tracing, I would highly recommend that you do make use of frame generation to get back some of that extra frame rate that you are currently missing. The last thing we need to do is set an FPS limit. I would highly recommend that you do this on any system, whether it be high end, low end, or how high or low your FPS is, because in many cases you can see improvements to your 1% and 0.1% low FPS. You'll see a small reduction to overall power usage, bringing down temperature slightly, providing you with a way more consistent experience and those super steady, predictable frame times. Set it to the nearest FPS cap that's available with inside of the game. On this system, I'm getting about 70 FPS, so what I'm going to do is press options, go to maximum frame rate, and I'm going to set an FPS cap of 60. Yes, I'm giving up some of that top end performance, but you can now see that my GPU load has gone down to the high 80s, giving me a massive reduction in overall input latency thanks to the lower GPU load, whilst also providing me with a super smooth, consistent experience because I'm always able to get 60 FPS on this system on these settings. If you go into situations where you start dipping below your FPS cap, then in that case, I would recommend that you go back into the game settings and find the next best FPS cap that you can utilize. Otherwise, making use of something like MSI Afterburner to set a custom FPS cap exactly how you want it is also a great option. Let me know of your results alongside any questions, queries, or tips you may have in that comment section down below. And if you would like to dive deeper into more optimization content, check out the playlist section in the description down below. Or if you're not entirely sure where to go next, check out one of the 2 videos on screen now, and I'll see you guys over there.